So now we're looking at the chain on the 540i. Every tank of gas, I'll just, they say tickle the teeth with a file, just 2 to 3 strokes, just enough to keep that front edge nice and sharp. A sign of a chain that's too tight is a lot of vibration in the saw. Hey guys, how you doing? Today I'm working on cutting up some logs. I've been doing a lot of firewood scrounging, and about 2 weeks ago I stopped scrounging and decided to focus more on cutting the wood I have, so I have at least something ready for the winter. Unfortunately, I don't have enough firewood to make it through the winter, but hopefully something's going to come along. So I've been cutting wood, and I got out yesterday and I used my new 540i, the Husqvarna battery saw. So I thought I would go ahead and make a few cuts with that and just show you guys how cool it is, and just do some more of the usual, I just like to share thoughts or concepts with you guys. And maybe you'll pick something out of it, or, quite often I'll get something in the comments that'll teach me something as well. So the first thing I just want to talk about briefly was I got the 066 out the other day, and I know we've been talking a lot about battery saws, but wow. If you're having a bad day, just pick up an 066 or a 661. I don't know if they're on the 662 now. Holy cow, what power. I was using this saw because I had some knotty pieces of oak, and I was using this to noodle the logs, and it was just going through them like butter. Now I keep these cards on all my chainsaws and eventually probably all my power equipment to keep track of when I last used it. And the tag on this 066 actually said January of 21. So right now it's actually late August, early September of 22. So it's basically been 20 months since I ran this saw. And the fuel in the tank, this is just, regular 93 octane gas with some fuel oil mix, but it's not one of those canned fuels, which in a couple videos ago, I said I've been using the canned fuels, but I saw a video by a channel called Chicanic, I'll put a link in the description, where she basically says that a lot of those canned fuels, or some of those canned fuels, you lose RPM on the top end, and sometimes for whatever reason the canned fuels just go bad, and the saw doesn't start anyways. So one tip she gave in her video was if you're using canned fuels, ethanol-free fuels, and your machine doesn't start, dump the fuel out, put fresh fuel in, and see if it does start. But then she was actually advising to just use the Echo brand of 2-cycle oil. She said they had very good luck with it. So what all that basically says is after 20 months, this saw started in 3 pulls. Literally 3 pulls, and it was good to go. And the 020, the video I did a couple days ago with my 020, I edited the video because it took me like 10 to 15 pulls to get that saw started several times. And the 020, I think I was using the ethanol-free fuel. So what I'm trying to say really circuitously here is I think I'm just going to get as good a quality of fuel stabler as I can for my 4-cycle stuff, which I know my dealer says for 4-cycle, there's one called Startron, which is like a marine one that's pretty good. And then for my 2-cycle stuff, I'm just going to, use one of the good brands. And again, the Chicanic, she said Echo makes a very good 2-cycle mix. I don't know. My dealer has STIHL and Husqvarna. You know, you get the top-notch one, the top-of-the-line one, because it's cheaper to pay for better oil than it is to fix your saw. But I'm going to basically stop using the ethanol-free fuel that costs like $25 a gallon and just go back to using regular gas. I'm going to keep a ticket on all my saws, and I'm going to make sure I know how long it's been since they ran. And then if for some reason they do end up sitting for a ton of time, I can always just drain the fuel out, put fresh fuel in, but hopefully, you know, I'll just keep up with running them once in a while. So then the next thing I did just want to talk about is we'll put the battery in this 540i. I don't have the big battery yet. I've still got the BLI 200, so the saw may cut out. I think if you basically put too much pressure on it, the saw can be overloaded and it'll stall. And I know the other one, you'll get like a red light, but you basically just turn it off and on and you can start cutting again. It's not really the saw, it's basically just learning how to use the saw the way it wants to be used. And I think a lot of us get this electric stuff and we just try to go at it the way we would with a gas saw, but it's a different way of doing things. You know, you let the machine do the work, so you figure out how to use the machine so the machine can do the work the most efficient way. Over the last week, I got this little magnifying lamp, and I'm not sure if it's going to stay here. You know, I've only had this for a day now, but I wanted to be able to show you guys more of the chain, and we'll see if we can get in here and maybe, you know, zoom in a little bit more for you guys. What we're looking at here is the chain on the 066, and this is an old milling chain. So if we zoom in a little bit more, you'll see that the angle, I guess that's called the top plate angle, it's almost perpendicular because this is an old milling chain. But what I wanted to show you, just for comparison's sake, is I want to put some calipers on this tooth. And this is a 3/8 050 gauge chain that's on the 066, and it's about half worn. And I just want to get a caliper. So let's say right about there is the width of the cutter, halfway worn. So now we're looking at the cutter on the T535i. This is an 043 gauge chain, and I don't think it's narrow kerf. So this is a chain that's already been filed down halfway. But it's definitely a narrow kerf because the chain on the 050, the 066 chain, was halfway filed down and it was still as wide as the calipers. So now we're looking at the chain on the 540i, and let's see if we can get in there. Look at the front of that cutter. This is a factory chain, which I did make cuts with. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the chain. Of the 3 chains we've looked at so far, though, I think you'll notice how the front of that cutter looks a little bit rounded. And that's why I talk about doing my maintenance sharpenings. Either the second the chain starts to be dull, like you notice a difference in it, or every tank of gas, I'll just, you know, they say tickle the teeth with a file, just 2 to 3 strokes, just enough to keep that front edge nice and sharp. And then you'll never end up wasting, you know, 20 minutes of your life trying to rescue a chain that's just been beat the snot. So what I want you guys to notice, and I haven't changed the calipers in any of these, but this is a brand new chain, never been filed, and the calipers are still going around the cutter. So in the 066, a half-worn cutter was this wide. In the 535i, the half-worn cutter was, I think, a little bit narrower than this, but now we're here with a brand new chain, and it's a narrow kerf chain, so there's less resistance, meaning with less power, you can cut faster. I think that's pretty cool. Hopefully you guys found it pretty interesting. I know I did. Number one, just to look at the chain that closely, and hopefully I'll be able to demonstrate why I'm such a chainsaw filing nut. But also, I think it's just really amazing how the engineers are coming up with ways to make a smaller saw perform better, or any saw perform better, with these new, narrow kerf chains and whatever other advanced designs are coming out with. But let's grab the saw and we'll just go make some cuts. I just want you guys to see the difference with the 540i compared to the 535. All right, so I just want you guys to see, this is the BLI 200 battery. It's got a full charge, and I really do want to get the bigger battery, but they're out of stock right now. So we're just going to go ahead and stick it in there, and you can see how the battery, it barely fits in the saw. Like, it fits in the saw. It's got one system, but the saw is designed to have a bigger battery back there, and I look forward to it. All right, guys, this is a piece of cherry, and it's about 6 inches in diameter. All right, we're going to start with the 540i with the BLI 200 battery in high power mode. All right, and the chain isn't ideal. I could make this chain. I haven't lowered the depth gauges yet, and I also haven't touched up the edge yet. So same saw, 540i in echo mode. I just don't notice that huge a difference between full power mode and echo mode. Just for comparison's sake, I've got the T535i with the BLI 200 battery, and I'm pretty sure this chain is close to brand new, so let's see how this goes. And this was full power. And I have to wonder if one of my depth gauges might be a little bit too high there. It's getting a little bumpy. So 535i in echo mode. All right. So now we're going to do the 535i in echo mode. So after all those cuts, I went down to 3 bars on my BLI 200 battery. And I want to say after all those cuts that the 540i just has a lot more oomph and speed and is smoother than the 535. Still love the 535, but this really is about as big as I'd want to be cutting on a regular basis. Actually, this is about as big as I'd want to be cutting with the 535, but I think that 540 is going to take from this range up until about 10 inches in diameter and be very comfortable there. Hey guys, I just wanted to make an addendum to my video here. When I was making the first cuts with the 535i, you may have noticed how the saw was jumping a lot in the cut. And I've noticed that happen before with this saw. And I thought there was something wrong with the way I was filing the chain. But I just did a quick search on Google, and a sign of a chain that's too tight is a lot of vibration in the saw. So if you watched the video, you know, when I first started cutting with this saw, you would have seen it bouncing around a lot. And then later in the video, I actually noticed that I lost a little bit of paint on the guide bar there. So if you go to the chain, everything's cooled off now, but I mean, this chain is way too tight. And I know I put them pretty tight because I like them tight when I sharpen them, but this is way too tight. The idea is you're supposed to be able to get the links out of the rail and it'll still snap in place, and the links are still in the rail. Obviously, talk to the shop you bought your saw from, read the manual, and learn how to tighten the chain right, which apparently I still haven't done yet. But just for comparison's sake, the 540i here, you see how the chain is coming up much higher, you know, and still snapping back in at the center of the bar. So this saw was cutting much more smoothly. But, you know, again, just if your saw starts jumping around, I'm not saying the only reason is your chain is too tight, but just, you know, check the tension on your chain and be very careful not to tension your chain when the saw is, you know, has been running, because what you can do is if you overheat the chain and tension it, when the saw stops running and the chain shrinks, I've heard it can actually damage the crankshaft because it squeezes everything together. But long story short, this is definitely too tight, and that's a sign it's too tight as well. So for any of you guys wondering, this is where we are now, and I've been, you know, plugging away at this a little bit at a time. I'm not really going for super fast, just enjoying using the saws. Hopefully you guys are enjoying some of the videos I'm making here. But I want to finish this little bit today. Shouldn't be a big deal. You know, all this stuff over here, just cut up, put it in the wheelbarrow, put it in the hose housing, a little bit of splitter time over here. This log is no big deal whatsoever. For the 540i and the 535i, I could definitely do it too. And that's where these electric saws are just so darn handy, because if you've got a log like this that you just need to zip real quick, you just grab it, hit the on button and go. But, you know, this is where most of the work has been going on. I'll pick up those logs, put them on here, and I'll go ahead and cut them and then put them right into the wheelbarrows. And I've got my drier wood wheelbarrow and my wetter wood wheelbarrow. And then I think I showed you guys this picture already, but I did use the 066 for a little bit of noodling, and it was amazing, truly amazing. And then I got to split some of these. But we'll have all this split and cleaned up today if I don't get too sidetracked by the video. And then the next video, hopefully I can show you my progress on the hose housings. All right, guys, well, that is going to wrap this one up. Hopefully you enjoyed that. You know, I really hope you guys enjoy focusing in more on the cutter. I think it's just much better to explain why we're doing what we do if we can get in and see it a little bit closer. But if you guys can do me a favor, Feel free to share this video on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I think this stuff is pretty cool. Go ahead and like the video, and please leave a comment. I don't know if I'm too abrasive or not, but there was one video I did last week where I still have yet to get one comment. So I'm not really sure what to make of that one. But thanks for watching, guys, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.